So you're gonna write our vocab. Here's our focus for today. You're gonna do prime factorization. So write this down for your new math vocabulary, prime factorization. And what are they? Basically, what you're gonna be doing is writing numbers as a product of primes. And product just means you're gonna be multiplying numbers together. What are their characteristics? So for prime factorization, you're only gonna see prime numbers multiplied together. And now we're going to look at some examples, and then we're also going to write down some non-examples. So for example, the number 8. If they ask you to write the prime factorization of a number, first you're going to create two tree branches, because what we're doing here is something called a prime factorization tree. So it's basically prime factorization tree, and the reason why they call that is what you see when we complete this, it's going to look like a tree. So again, the number 8, to do the prime factorization, you create two tree branches, and what you're going to do is come up with two numbers that multiply together to give you 8. You can use this worksheet, the multiplication table, right? I can look at the number 8 here, and you can see 8 is the same thing as 4 times 2. So 2 times 4 is equal to 8. So I write down those two numbers. 2 times 4 is 8. And then over here on the board, you're going to see the prime numbers up to 100. So you just got to look at those numbers and say, which number is a prime number? So 2 and 4. 2 is prime, but 4 is not. So since 2 is a prime number, I'm going to circle it. 4 is not prime, therefore I'm not going to circle it. And therefore I'm going to create two tree branches off of this and say, okay, what two numbers multiply together to give me 4? And that would be 2 times 2. And if you look at these two numbers, 2 is prime, so I'll circle it, and 2 is also prime, so I'll circle that as well. And then therefore my final answer is going to be 8 is equal to, and then the numbers that I circled, 2 times 2 times 2 will be my answer. And you could check your work, because if you do 2 times 2 times 2, that does equal 8. All right, here's my next example, 12. I'm going to write the prime factorization of that. So I create my two tree branches, and now I look at the multiplication. So looking at the chart, you look for two numbers that multiply together to give you 12. So I can see 12 is here, and I could do 3 times 4. So I put those two numbers here. 3 times 4 is 12. And now I look at both numbers. 3, I look at the list. So I can see 3 is a prime number. And then the other number 4 is not here, which means 4 is a composite, so it's not prime. So I'm only going to circle the prime number. And the composite number, I just break it up again and figure out, okay, what two numbers multiply together to give me 4. And similar to the last one, 4 is the same as 2 times 2. This is prime, and that's it. And here we can see that 12 is the same thing as 3 times 2 times 2. So whatever numbers are circled, that's going to be your final answer. And you can check your work again by multiplying these together. That should equal 12 if you did it correctly. And notice again, I made a note here that you should only see prime numbers multiplied together. And that's what you can see here. These are all prime numbers, and these are also all prime numbers. You should not see any composite numbers there if you did it correctly. All right, so here's my next example, 60. So I'm looking at my multiplication chart. 60 is right here, which is the same as 6 times 10. So I put both of those numbers here, and I look at my prime factor list here. So my prime number list, 6 is not there, and 10 is not there. That means that these are not prime. So I got to break these up into tree branches again. And I look for two numbers that multiply together to give me 6. So you can see here 6 is the same as 2 times 3. And then again, 2 and 3, if you look at your prime numbers, that's in the prime number list. So I'm going to circle both of these, and that's all set. And now I look at 10. 10 is the same thing as 2 times 5. 2 is a prime number, so I'll circle it. And 5 is also prime, so I'll circle that one. And I can see here that 60 is the same as 2 times 3 times 2 times 5. And again, notice these are all prime numbers, no composites. Here I'm going to show you some non-examples. So for example, 8. Sometimes I might see a student do this. They'll put 1 times 8, and they'll say, okay, I finished. 8 is the same as 1 times 8. But if you look at 8, this is a composite number. Right, if I look at this list here, 8 is not here. And remember, your final answer should have only prime numbers here. So if that happens, that means you did not break this down enough. Here's another non-example. Let's say I did this. This is prime. So I'll put 12 is 3 times 4. But look in here, 3 is a prime number, but 4 is not prime. It's composite, so this will be incorrect. So again, all these numbers should be prime numbers if you did it correctly. And then here's your worksheet for today. So I want you to try these three problems, 15, 24, and 130. You're going to do the prime factorization tree here, and then your final answer, you're going to put it over here.